All right, today we're going to break down a pretty startling story from an ancient text. It's all about one man's radical transformation. From a state of total chaos to one of complete peace. But as you're about to see, the path from that kind of torment to tranquility is anything but simple. And honestly, the solution might be just as terrifying as the problem itself.
So the story just drops us right into this incredibly raw and desperate scene. Think about that image. This man isn't just an outcast. He's literally trapped in a cycle of unending, self-inflicted torment. This one line puts us right there in the middle of his suffering.
So, to really get what happens next, we first have to understand just how hopeless this guy's situation was. He wasn't just troubled. The original text makes it really clear that everyone thought he was completely, totally beyond help. Now, living among the tombs, that's a really specific and powerful detail. It meant he was completely cut off from society. He was dwelling in a place that people associated with death, with impurity. He was physically and socially as isolated as you could possibly get.
And it wasn't for lack of trying. The community tried to restrain him again and again. They used chains, they used irons, and every single time, he just shattered them. The source makes a really crucial point here. This was way beyond normal human strength. It literally says no one was strong enough to subdue him. The entire community was just powerless.
So into this scene of just total desperation, a new figure walks in. Jesus. And with his arrival, the whole story shifts. It goes from being about this isolated suffering to a direct and really dramatic confrontation.
Okay, so these are the very first words we hear in this showdown, and they reveal so much. The text says it's the impure spirit inside the man that's shouting. And get this, it immediately recognizes Jesus by name and title. And it's not speaking with aggression, but with absolute terror. It's begging not to be tortured.
Jesus' response to this panicked outburst is a really simple but powerful question. He just cuts right to the heart of it all and demands an identity. What is your name? And this question, it sets up the most famous and honestly chilling line in the whole story.
My name is Legion, for we are many. Wow. That's not a person's name, right? It's not John or James. It's a title. It's a number. And to really feel the weight of that, we have to understand what the word legion meant to the people living back then.
So, a legion was the largest unit in the Roman army. It meant an overwhelming, organized, occupying military force. The point here is crucial. This name implies the man isn't just afflicted by something, he is occupied by an army. This one word explains everything. It explains why no chain could hold him and why no person was strong enough to subdue him.
Okay, so now that we get the scale of the problem, the story builds to this really violent and frankly bizarre climax. What happens next involves a strange negotiation and a very, very large herd of pigs that happens to be nearby.
And before the action really kicks off, the text gives us this one critical detail. The herd of pigs numbered about 2,000. Remember that number. This massive, specific figure is key to understanding the sheer scale of what's about to happen.
The whole sequence of events is just so swift and strange. First, the spirits beg to be transferred into the pigs. Then Jesus allows it. The moment they enter the animals, the entire herd of 2,000 stampedes straight off a cliff into a lake and drowns. It's this incredibly destructive, final end to the confrontation. So, the chaos is over, but the story is far from done. Now we get to explore the aftermath, and the reactions are, well, they're incredibly complex. For the man, it's total restoration, but for the community, it's something else entirely. The contrast is just stark. The man who lived among the dead is now sitting with the living. The man who couldn't be restrained is now dressed and totally calm. The guy who is crying out in agony is now, as the text puts it, in his right mind. The transformation is absolute. So you'd expect a celebration, right? A parade for the man who was finally healed, but that is not what happened. The townspeople come out, they see the healed man, they hear about their 2,000 dead pigs, which by the way was a catastrophic economic loss, and the source says they were afraid. This display of power was so overwhelming that they actually pleaded with Jesus to leave. As Jesus is getting ready to leave, the restored man begs to go with him, but he's given a totally different mission. He's told to stay, to go back to the very same people who had chained him up and become a messenger of his own story, a living, breathing testament to what happened to him.
And that's exactly what he does. He goes and tells his story, and the narrative tells us that the community's first reaction, that fear, eventually turned into amazement. His personal testimony completely changed how the entire region saw the event.
And so we're left with this really fascinating question, right? It's about the disruptive nature of radical change. A problem was solved, a man was healed, but it came at a huge cost and through a display of power that was deeply unsettling to everyone who saw it. It forces us to ask, what happens when the cure feels just as terrifying as the disease?